Right, so this is my second video for my class reviews. I have been teaching in Thailand for almost a year, teaching grades 7, 8, and 9, students between the ages of 11 up until maybe even 16. So this video I'll be reviewing my grade 8 class called Mathium 2 here in Thailand. And again, they are broken up between Group A being the stronger learners and Group B being the learners that are weaker and many times less motivated. Right, start with Group A. They are a talented class. They tend to be very good in English, considering that it's their second language. It makes it hard for me to relate because I've always been a very weak language learner, especially with Chinese being my second language. I always struggled with learning it. It makes it difficult for me to relate to these kids, but that's me digressing. So this group, I feel like with Group A, I always had to constantly entertain them. I had to always make them laugh, trying to keep them engaged. And that was very taxing for me up here mentally because normally I'm a very quiet and reserved person. You know, I tried really hard to entertain them. And I did things that were way beyond my comfort zone. I sang in class, did a lot of singing. I was singing love songs to some of the boys. I was up on stage, I was screaming, being the MC. I remember doing that. I was also chasing the boys around outside in the halls, giving them massages, singing them birthday songs, etc., that type of stuff. I won't laundry list it. So I tried my best being funny, and at the end of the year in the survey that I gave them, they said that I wasn't funny enough. So my response to that is I'm at a loss for words. At the beginning of the year, I've done everything I conceivably could to push myself out of my comfort zone. I didn't think that I would be singing in class or doing all these crazy things, doing kung fu moves in class. I didn't think I would be doing that. Even then, they said I was not funny enough. And I was their teacher and not a clown. And in addition to that, I remember when I asked them to do things without my supervision, such as I was sitting outside of the classroom speaking with them individually. They thought it was a speaking test. It was not. I was trying to get to know them individually at the end of the year so I can write down some parting advice to them. Students that I was not talking to individually, I asked them to complete the last page of their textbook. And next class, I found out hardly anyone did it. That was the last case. Even before that, I'll ask them to prepare a speech. No one does it. And it's really off-putting, and it's a bit saddening to me that when I tell them to do something, they don't do it. And this is in comparison to Group B. Group B they tend to be less motivated students based on the school system at Atomit. And Group B, they took it really seriously. They did what I asked them to do. In addition to that, during the last few classes, I asked my Group A students to write down on my journal if they'd like, if they had any parting words. And I remember the first girl that I gave it to, I thought she was, I'm not going to say her name, the best student in the class. I saw she only wrote a couple lines, which, again, it was a bit off-putting to me and the responses after that, it looks like they just copied each other. And I saw in comparison with their Group B classmates, they actually put in a lot of work to try to write down a thoughtful response, even though their English was a lot weaker than these Group A students. And I look at the responses that Group A gave me, and honestly, I have them right here. I look at them and it's saddening because, pardon my French, I worked my ass off trying to be the best teacher, and I get half-assed responses. I feel a bit embittered about that. And in addition to that, I also had them fill out a survey at the end of very last class. I felt like with Group A, a lot of them just treated it as a joke. And even after all the work, all the blood, sweat, and tears I put in to try to make them better, tried to care for them like they were my own kin, and how I tried to be the best teacher to them. They treated it as a joke, and most of them didn't write any thoughtful responses on the survey, even though their English was a lot better than their Group B classmates again. Their Group B classmates, so many of them took it so seriously. So this Group A for Matthew 2, grade 8. Would I teach them again? No, I wouldn't. After all the work I put in, I feel a lack of appreciation for what I did for them. And I don't want to feel that embitterment that I feel now, the embitterment and the sadness. So with this group, I'm going to work on being consciously indifferent to them, which I talked about in a previous video. So yeah, that is Group A for grade 8, Matthew 2. Group B. These Group B students tend to be less than ideal, and which even now at the end of the year, grade 8, Group B, a lot of them, they're not students that I really love. There are a couple of them that aren't that good, which I won't mention. Even so, I think back to when in the beginning of the year, and these students in Group B, they sat in the back of the class. They were joking around, didn't really want to pay attention, were not motivated. And at the end of the year, they were pretty much all sitting up in front. They took my class really seriously. They were very sincere in wanting to learn from me. This group, in contrast to Group A, I didn't have to work so hard in trying to entertain and be a clown for them, which it left me a lot more energy to actually try to teach them, especially since I felt so exhausted mentally by the end of the year. I didn't have to try and be funny, even though I still wanted to try for them because I loved them so much. What else did I want to say? Yeah, they were a great group at the end, and that group, I remember, they wrote really sincere responses. Some of the responses they wrote down in my journal, they make me smile, and I feel so proud of them. I remember the very last class I had with Group B. That was the only class out of my 6 classes that I felt myself feeling a bit emotional about, that I was actually going to really miss them. Yeah, so that's Matthew 2, grade 8. One more note, I noticed that I never received any gifts from any of my Matthew 2 students, which it does make me feel a bit sad because I got presents from Matthew 1, even Matthew 3, which I'll talk about later, and Matthew 4 even, I don't even teach those students. One of the girls there, she was really nice and got me a New Year present. So I do note that, but yeah, Group B, I'm so proud of them. They improved so much, and I want them to continue being great students, even better students, when they become Matthew 3 students next year. So yeah, that is Matthew 2, and next one will be Matthew 3.